Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace and beneficence be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Well, good morning, everyone, and namaste. This is a morning for our open forum. But before that, I'll say a few words of announcements. Yesterday was Seva Saturday for this month. We had half a dozen people, very industrious, very hardworking people, and a great deal got done getting the yard and the center ready for fall, which was a great grace. And they worked very hard. And so our great thanks and love and appreciation for those people who made the effort to come and serve on this Seva Saturday. As you all know, there is still a lockdown in progress here at the center. No face-to-face gatherings except for things exceptional like Seva Saturday yesterday. Of course, the chapel is open every day for your private use. When you're in the chapel, you can wear a mask or not as you see fit. If there are other people in the chapel, it's a grace if you will indeed wear a mask. But if you're alone for your own private meditation or contemplation or prayer, no need. And if you wish to have an appointment with me, the thing to do is just give me a call or send me an email and we'll make an arrangement. Is there any other announcement I should make that I haven't thought to make? All right, dears. As I said, this is a day for our open forum. I hope all of you have had an opportunity to get the worksheet. If not, perhaps a link will be posted so that you can get it, or maybe it has already been posted. So I'm going to read from the open forum worksheet, and here's how it goes. Open forum worksheet on Jnana Yoga, October 16th, 2022. October is a month for the study of Jnana Yoga, Advaita Vedanta. As a Jnana yogi, you practice discrimination, reason, detachment, and satyagraha, insistence on truth. The goal is freedom from all limitation, moksha. Our teachers say that our miseries in life are caused by seeing inaccurately. An earnest and persistent jnani may break through this misapprehension, which is called Maya, and see only the divine presence everywhere, in everything, and in everyone. An earnest and persistent jnani may break through the misapprehension of Maya and see only the divine presence everywhere, in everything, and in everyone. Of course, that divine presence within Sanskrit, within Sanatana Dharma and in Sanskrit, is called Brahman, or as it appears to us seemingly separately in individual human beings, the Atman. But we'll stick with the word Brahman this morning because that is the way it is referred to by the Jnanis, the Advaita Vedantists. So we're going to do a little bit of definitions here. Jnana Yoga, Advaita Vedanta. It is the non-dual path. That is, seeing only the one reality of Brahman. This is the wisdom of jnana. This is the philosophy, as Swami Vivekananda points out. You can achieve the goal through philosophy. The philosophy is, as we'll describe, these practices and principles that we'll describe are the practices and principles of this non-dual path. The jnani sees everything of Maya as a dream, including the the personal god or goddess, and all of those other aspects of gods and goddesses. Only the formless and eternal Brahman is the reality as far as they're concerned. Everything else is a dream. So this brings up the idea of discrimination. How do they differentiate between what is dream and what is real? This discrimination is, of course, a form of what deserves her or his attention, but it takes this particular form. Only the eternal, the changeless, and the infinite. Only the eternal, the changeless, and the infinite is worthy of their attention. And of course, all within time, space, and causation is by definition not eternal, ever-changing, and finite. So nothing within time, space, and causation deserves their attention. This brings up the idea of reason. They're constantly reasoning. This appears to my waking awareness. Is it? Does it fit the definition of what deserves my attention or not? So the reason is very much a part of it. Constant use of the left mind until the left mind disappears. It is used to reason, and this disappearing I'll talk about in a minute. So this reason leads them to vairagya, or detachment. Detachment from all things having to do with Maya, time, space, and causation. They detach themselves from this, or in their words, they ignore it. And as that detachment matures and matures, it is because they are insisting on the truth. They are practicing satyagraha. Satya, truth, graha, insistence on truth. Brahman alone is real. The eternal, the changeless, the infinite alone is real. Everything else is unreal and dreamlike. And that is for them the definition of Maya. Everything that is dreamlike and unreal, that does not fit their definition of reality with a capital R, is unreal and therefore Maya. Divine presence. Divine presence for the jnani, for the advaitist, is Brahman and Brahman alone. But they, after having the realization of Brahman, of course, they see Brahman everywhere, as is said in the Gita verse, those who see Brahman in every action. One who sees Brahman in every action attains to Brahman. So it's a kind of a feedback loop. They're insisting that Brahman is what is in every action. They then have this realization of Brahman, which is known as becoming one with Brahman. And they see this divine presence everywhere, in everything, and in everyone, which is what which was what Sri Ramakrishna refers to as vijnana, or special knowledge. How to achieve this? Nisarga Datta Maharaj, a great advaitist and teacher and jnani, said everything yields to earnestness. Everything yields to earnestness. Now, we all have our sense of what earnestness means. It means unyielding, it means having faith, and so on. The Sanskrit word, which is used by Adi Shankaracharya in his treatise on Advaita Vedanta, the Vivekachudamani, his word is mumukshutvam, which Sri Ramakrishna translated as yearning. So yearning, or earnestness, is everything yields to that earnestness or yearning. And what does another great jnani, advaitist, Ramana Maharshi, say is the great reward for this, if you actually achieve this? Your own self-realization is the greatest service you can render the world. Your own self-realization is the greatest service you can render the world. Why? Why did he say that? Because if you become realized by whatever path, and he doesn't recommend, or he recommends bhakti to people as well, but he says the idea is to find who is this I behind whatever a path you follow. What is this I? And when you realize this, you become this great service to the world. Why? Because you're no longer adding to the confusion. You're no longer participating in the confusion. You are radiating the truth. You are radiating the truth. The eternal teacher is awake because he is free. His clear eyes show what it is to see beyond the pages of any book and know the truth wherever he looks. And this is the state that is achieved. And when you're in that state, you become a great grace to everyone around you. And of course, this gracefulness, graciousness begins as soon as you start on this path. You begin to change. And you slowly and slowly, through whatever one of the yogas or combination of the yogas you're following, you achieve greater and greater awareness of who you are, the witness awareness, Atman. And of course, Atman is identical with Brahman. It's just another word for the same thing, as it seems to appear to us in individual human beings. So having said all that, now let's just open this up for discussion. We're right on schedule, blessings. We're right on schedule. We have 45 minutes in which to look at this screen full of people. How wonderful. Let's, all of us who are moved to do so, share from our own wisdom or experience what it is, what this means to us, or raise any concerns or questions you have about how this is practiced or what these definitions that were given actually mean.
Before we jump in, can we define a word?
Yes, please.
Word is see, S-E-E, which is used a lot in the definitions. It's like the jnani sees as unreal anything that's not Brahman, and once they attain to Brahman, they see Brahman in everything. And what is meant by seeing?
Oh, good, very good question. There is first of all, as Swami Brahmananda pointed out, there is no line of demarcation between what we regard as the material or physical world and the spiritual. He said, show me the line of demarcation where the world of matter ends and the world of spirit begins. There is none. But before realization, we see with our physical eyes, and we begin as we go on the spiritual path to see with our inner eye, which is the eye of the heart or the right mind. When we then go on and on, this is when we're seeing that everything, particularly if we're following the jnana path, that everything within time, space, and causation, within Maya, is this dreamlike manifestation. As Sri Ramakrishna said, even Shakti, even Kali, if focused on with reason, becomes dreamlike, he said. Insubstantial and dreamlike. From the jnani's perspective, this is how it is. And this is why they don't believe. They give no credence to any of that. When the state of realization is achieved, then it becomes, as Meister Eckhart says, the eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me. That is to say, the inner eye is completely awakened. And so everything is seen from that perspective.
Thanks.
And there is also of course, as long as the jnani remains embodied, the physical eyes are there, and they see what is in front of them, but they don't see it in the way we see it now. They see it as Brahman in manifestation. This is what Sri Ramakrishna calls vijnana, special knowledge, that ability to see the divine in the manifestation as well as the unmanifest.
I'd like to comment on that.
Please.
The seeing, I think for me, first of all, I absolutely loved studying this. It made me, I seem to understand it, I think, right off the bat, if you will. And for me, I think what was most confusing was that I had to understand first that the seeing was the witness and not the witnessed. And so what I mean by that is the witness, everything to me appeared to. They would be objective. And then only going through separating that first, what was the pure subject, which would be the real me, and everything else, which is objects. I had to go through that process to see that they were clearly different, and separate them first, and then understand that every object was appearing to me, the witness. And once I got to that point, I think the definition of seeing changed, and the identification then with what I am shifted to that witness. And then there's one more step to take after that, where the rest of the objects then become collapsed back into the witness as one Brahman.
Yes, and this is true. And thank you, John. Very, very articulately and well said. This collapsing, as you say, back into the one is the final step, or what Sri Ramakrishna calls the highest note. And he said, even the realized soul cannot keep their voice always on the highest note. Even the most accomplished singer cannot keep their voice always on the highest note. So we come back to if we remain embodied, and many who achieve Brahma Jnana, the knowledge of Brahman, they don't remain embodied. Or if they do, it's only for, it's said up to 21 days. So, but if you do, then you're seeing this divine everywhere in action. And this is that vijnana. But you can't keep your mind always on that highest note. You come back to relating to yourself and one another in an ordinary way. You eat, you sleep, you have conversations, you do your work, all that. Thank you, John. Very nicely said.
Brother Shankara,
Yes, Uma.
may I add something to this?
Please do.
I recall one particular shloka in Bhagavad Gita. I don't have exact page or exact shloka number. It says, Yaha pashyati sa pashyati. Yaha, who sees, comma, sees. And that is not only, it sounds tricky, but it's very deeply sensible. It makes sense, perfect sense. For example, we all see things. We meet people. We go out, see nature. Whatever is the object that we see. And the other stage is recognizing what we see. So when he says, Yaha Parishati, who sees? Then this second sees is realizing that got it, I got it. You know, it is that inner feeling of knowing. And that knowing is what Krishna is talking about, jnana. That this is a deeper recognition or realization.
Yes.
For example, in chapter 10, Vishwarupa Darshana, Krishna shows his universal form. And in order for Arjun to see that, he grants him Divya Chakshu, divine eyes, third eye, not ordinary eyes. And what he means by that is that very, very, very few can see the truth. And that is an eye of the truth. So that's what I wanted to say about seeing what is seeing, what Cindy was asking, discerning wise wisdom. So knowledge is wisdom, that third eye.
Very nicely said, Uma. And of course, we must release totally our identification with our physical and subtle, our gross and subtle bodies before we're able to experience this divine vision and endure it. As we know, Arjuna in the Gita, having been given this divine vision, because he is not yet realized, that is, in that state of realization, he begs Krishna, he begs the divine presence, oh, take your familiar form. He says his four-armed form, which means Vishnu.
Yeah.
So he says, return with me to time, space, and causation.
Mm-hmm.
And Krishna, of course, grants that.
Yeah.
And removes this divine vision. And it's only when we achieve this realization that we're able to have that divine vision. And that's why that quote from Meister Eckhart was said. In the state of realization, the eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me. As Hanuman says when Rama asks, who do you think I am? Hanuman says these other things about the lower states, but then he says, when I am in the state of realization, I know that I am you and you are me. This divine presence behind this screen of Maya, this screen of dreamlike existence. From the point of view of the jnani, it is dreamlike. From the point of view of the bhakta, it's not dreamlike. It's a very different way of being. So there isn't only one way of seeing, but ultimately it comes to the same achievement, you might say. Achievement is really a kind of misnomer, but we have to think, what is the goal? What is it I'm trying to achieve? I'm trying to achieve this union with the divine presence. That's the way the bhakta would say it. And in that state, of course, and that's the path that Meister Eckhart took. He was a bhakta. So thank you, Uma. Anything else from anyone? This is perfect. This is exactly what we should be doing.
Brother Shankara?
Shankara? Oh, go ahead, Maj.
All right. What I was saying, what Uma said is exactly what I wanted to say. That means we are not married to each other, but we both are married to the common principle that we all are married to. And that's the reason why your earlier statement that we will not meet face to face because of still COVID-19, but it doesn't matter because we meet heart to heart, soul to soul, and that goes to show that perhaps our translation of knowledge, jnana, needs to change to perception. So jnani is not one who knows, but the one who perceives. Because perception has a greater depth than a mere knowledge or information. So coming to that one, perhaps the wisdom you are talking about is Occam's razor, something which is unfortunately forgotten in our common generation here, but he proposed that when there are so many solutions offered, the solution which is most likely to succeed is the one which is the simplest.
Yes.
Simplest solution is there is one Brahman.
Yes.
There might be many truths, many truths. All are pandits, all are knowledgeable people. They advance different formulas, different viewpoints, but the truth is one. And that is a truth. And if you come to see the proof of the truth, we are about 21 people today here, all born in different homes, raised by different parents, bearing a different skin, having a different education, and yet we think alike. Yet we think alike. So my point is that if one sees what one sees, yeah, Prashati is a Prashati, in that case, Prashati is not see, but perceive. Otherwise, Helen Keller would have been an absolutely defunct person.
Yes, yes.
Instead, without seeing, without any eyes, she saw a lot more than what we saw. And that is what is meant by see. That's the point I wanted to say.
Very nicely put, Bhagirath. And of course, this is exactly what Krishna is driving at. This is what all of these great souls are driving at. And it is the only reason we're drawn to anything is because it is the self. Yajnavalkya goes on at some length. For any of you who want to see a really great discourse on this, read Yajnavalkya's discourse to Maitreyi in the Big Forest Upanishad, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Beautifully said, Bhagirath. Lori, you had something?
Yeah, I just wondered if you could just mention that time early on when Ramakrishna touched Swamiji.
Yes, well, Swamiji, of course, was this brilliant, absolutely brilliant young man with this very powerful mind. No one could defeat him in debate. He had a great sense of himself as a great scholar and a great thinker, and was studying law and so on and so forth. And he came to Sri Ramakrishna the first time, and Sri Ramakrishna touched him on the chest, and the world of appearance began to go away. He began to lose body consciousness of his waking awareness. And he said to Sri Ramakrishna, "What are you doing to me? I have my parents at home." And Sri Ramakrishna then touched him again on the chest and said, "Well, it doesn't have to happen all at once." So it took 5 years of training for this great soul, this Narendra, the sage Nara, we're told, to become Swami Vivekananda and embark on his mission, get ready to embark on his mission to the West. And then he had to spend some years making his own what Sri Ramakrishna had given him. It was really quite remarkable, this odyssey of Vivekananda's from that first meeting with Sri Ramakrishna to standing in front of the audience at the first Parliament of World Religions in 1893, September 11th, 1893, and saying just the words, "Sisters and Brothers of America," and the whole audience arose and gave him a 2-minute standing ovation. Now, that is inexplicable in any ordinary sense of the word. Thank you, Lori. Anything else?
Thank you.
Brother, was it that when he said the first word, people were not touched by the words, but they were touched by some, like a spiritual power or something like that?
Well, this is when he was asked for an explanation. what he said was, Vivekananda said, the reason that they had that feeling was because of what he was projecting. He didn't say this, but what he was projecting was perfectly pure, because he said of himself, I had not had an impure thought since I was 16 years old. I had not had an impure thought since age 16. And so he had become purity itself, not only through his own efforts, but then through the ministry of Sri Ramakrishna. So yes, the audience didn't know why they were doing what they did. It was simply a spontaneous reaction from their hearts. Anything else from anyone about what we're talking about today? Jnana Yoga and what it means to be a Jnana Yogi.
Brother, my question is like related to sort of Gyan Yoga, but slightly digressing a little bit. I have this thought in my mind that we have these 4 yogas, and maybe maybe personally for me, I mean, it may not apply for everybody, but is it good to just stay at the center, and whenever you sort of and maybe it's connected with those left mind and right mind and left emotion and right emotion, but I think the idea is to stay right at the center. Is that a way?
Well, Swami Vivekananda was very clear. Become free. How? Become free and manifest the divinity within. How? Do this by work, karma yoga, or worship, bhakti yoga, or psychic control, raja yoga, or philosophy, jnana yoga. Work or worship or psychic control or philosophy, one or more or all 4, and be free. So to be at the center, as you say, and take from all of them this is the emphasis that we see in Sri Ramakrishna's great talk to the Brahmo devotees when Keshav Sen took him on a steamer excursion on the Ganges, and the master spoke. You can read about that starting on page 132 of the Gospel. Sri Ramakrishna gives a beautiful talk, one of his few lectures on the yogas and their utility. What is the utility of each, and what is the glory that is available to us by combining what it is that we can take from each of those yogas. So yes, you're quite right, Rajiv. It doesn't. We don't need to be. We don't need to. What we can be. There is no compulsion. There is only invitation.
And the like now, I think many times, I think in most people talk about the right mind and the right emotion is the godlier one. But also in Jill Bolte life's Taylor's experience, she couldn't function when her left mind broke down. So is it that the one might be more auspicious than other in general, but every thing taken in isolation sort of limits you?
You're absolutely right, Rajiv. The left mind is absolutely necessary. Otherwise, why would the divine presence have evolved it in us? So that we can do what we're doing right now. Being, creating, doing, sharing. The joys of these is why we're here. It absolutely requires the left mind. An artist can have the highest inspiration, and unless their left mind is trained in how to give that inspiration form and accessible meaning to others, it is simply inspiration. It goes nowhere. So the mother of muses gives us both. The mother of muses being Saraswati, she gives us both the inspiration from the right mind, if you will, the realm of images and knowledge beyond words, and then the ability to shape words and take those images and make them into physical form, and share them with others. Otherwise, there would be no songs. There would be no beautiful paintings or sculptures. There would be no art. There would be no great music of any kind. There would be no dance. What is dance? Dance is taking that music and giving it some sort of physical expression. And the expert dancer, as Sri Ramakrishna says, the expert dancer becomes the one for whom the music is dancing them. They're not dancing to the music. The music is dancing, is producing the dance. But of course, they have to learn how. They have to train themselves to be a dancer. And it is hard, rigorous work, I tell you.
Brother Shankar,
Yes, dear.
time and again we are talking about the right and the left brain, but there is some controversy about it. It depends upon whether you are right-sided or left-sided. If you are a left-sided person, it will be centered in the right brain and vice versa. So
Yes.
the side, whether it is right or left, does not matter at all.
That,
and it is very unfortunate that Christians called the left side is sinister side. It is not. Both of them are contained within the same skull, and a careful examination of Einstein's brain could not reveal why he was so bright. Because
so
perhaps he was getting the perception from far above, and the motor centers were all right, but the instruction came from far above.
You're absolutely right, Bhagavad, and of course you speak from the training of a very highly skilled and very knowledgeable doctor who knows about the neuroanatomy of the brain more than most of us do. All of these ways, all of these things, left brain, right brain, so on, are simply gestures at the truth of what we experience. So you're absolutely right. We mustn't get locked into some arbitrary or dogmatic definition of left brain, right brain. If you're left-handed, what would have been the right brain becomes the left brain and vice versa. And but all of this is just pointing at the moon. Pointing at the moon is not the moon. We're just pointing at the moon with our words and our concepts. And those people, this is why, it is said, it is written of the eternal teacher, his heart is afire because he is free. His clear eyes see, his clear eyes show what it is to see beyond the pages of any book and know the truth wherever he looks. Then that teacher may or may not put it into words. As Sri Ramakrishna said, and Vivekananda said, many, many great souls, their words, they don't say much, but their thoughts, who they are, what they've become, as Ramana Maharshi said, becomes a great service to the world.
And exactly, I found that verse in Bhagavad Gita again, chapter 5, verse 4. And I'm fascinated by this. It says, verse number 38, chapter 4. There is no purifier in this world like wisdom. And how profound is this? And you come from scientific point of view, or you come through pure heart realization like Ramakrishna did. But there is no such anything is as purifying and as uplifting as knowledge in the sense of wisdom. And that is the proof of everything you are saying. And another fascinating thing it says, Sankhya, which is pure science of intelligence, buddhi, is called Buddhi Yoga. So throughout the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna keeps on hammering this point, that buddhi, that faculty of discrimination and discerning, seeing, and understanding, jnana, understand, deeper understanding. He keeps on emphasizing the importance of buddhi.
Oh, yes.
So he says there is no other person like jnani to see the truth. And at the same time, he says, but of course, you can approach that through your hand, karma, heart, or your buddhi.
Yes. Well, this is,
Yes.
yeah, Uma, this is exactly why he says that all of us, if we're to practice, if we're to follow the spiritual path, must practice meditation, because that's the only way that you gain access to the buddhi. You go through the koshas, you go through the annamaya kosha, the food body, and it says to you, oh, I want this, I want that, I want the other thing. Then you go through the pranamaya kosha as you sink through practicing contemplation, concentration, and meditation. You sink through the prana body, which says, this is the way we should express ourselves. This is the way we should use our energy, and so on and so forth. All having to do with the samskaras that create these two koshas. These are the part of us that we carry as a garment that we drop. And then we reach the koshas, the sheaths that begin to be eternal. The manomaya kosha, the jnanamaya kosha, and the anandamaya kosha. These are those that are said to transmigrate, and they're eternal unless they are dissolved, unless they go beyond the gunas and are dissolved. Otherwise, they remain. And Vivekananda says that this is a good thing, not a bad thing. In any event, that they remain and that we go on and become a Christ. But the idea that we need to get access to this wisdom body, this discernment, discrimination body, Krishna, as you say, he says it over and over again in the Gita. If you wish to gain access to the truth, to wisdom, you must practice meditation, which is why even the jnanis practice their own form of meditation, which is primarily that insistence on truth. It's nididhyasana.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brother, what is the sort of attitude or ignorance that traps us in each of these layers? Like, first you get trapped in annamaya kosha, then you get freed from there, then you're trapped in prana, and then in mana, and then, so how do we understand this on a very sort of minute?
Well, the wonderful part of it is, Rajiv, you don't really have to understand it. You simply come to see what it is doing from the witness awareness that you come to through practicing meditation. The witness awareness, which is the face of the Atman within us. Krishna is very explicit about this in the Gita, that the witness awareness is the saguna Atman, the Atman that has intentions and experiences what we experience. Though there's no reaction, it experiences it and therefore sanctions it. But when we become seated in that witness seat, we simply see these things that arise in the food body, the energy body, the mind body, these sheaths. We see them as something that simply arises and passes away. If we don't hold on to it, it simply arises and passes away. This is, of course, the primary tenet of the wisdom of Buddhism. Cling to nothing. You are not the person you were a moment ago, Buddha said. Stop dwelling in the past. Stop projecting yourself into the future. All that's already known. No sense to rehearsing it. Just watch it arise and pass away, arise and pass away. So we don't have to understand it. We can understand it through practice of the various yogas, but there's not any necessity to understand it. As Sri Krishna says, in practicing karma yoga, you don't try to understand it. You just offer it all. Offer it all to me. Now we've strayed away from talking about Jnana Yoga, but fine. He says, offer it all to me. Then it'll arise and pass away, and you won't be attached to it because it's no longer your own. You don't see it as your own. So again, he doesn't say understand it. He says, just offer it to me. This is the work of the gunas. This is the work of the divine at play. And so just offer it to me, release your hold on it, and take refuge in me, and everything then becomes fine. So each of the yogas has its own way. As I said, for a jnana yogi, they talk about the dissolution or annihilation of the mind. And you do that by simply practicing over and over, ignoring whatever the mind presents to you. Now, this requires a very strong will.
Yes.
It is not for most people. But if you have that earnestness, as Nisargadatta Maharaj says, if you have that earnestness, he says you come to see yourself as just a point of awareness in this great ocean of consciousness, and everything is arising and passing away in front of that point of awareness and is of no significance at all other than what is necessary for you to sustain your body as long as it is alive. So what did Nisargadatta Maharaj do? Instead of his whole chain of bidi shops that he had there and wherever it was, Mumbai, I think, he kept just one, which was enough to sustain him and his family. He was a family man. And so he just went to the upstairs room there. Others took care of running the shop. And he went to the upstairs room. He didn't ask anybody to come, but people knowing who he was came. And he would tell them things very similar to what we hear from all the other great teachers of Advaita. Just stop thinking about things so much. Just let all those thoughts go. Just push them out of your mind. Just focus. Who is it that is thinking? Who is it that is thinking? Who is it that is perceiving? Who is it that is knowing anything. Finally, you come to this sense, as he puts it, that you are just a point of awareness, a tiny, tiny point of awareness. He says, like the dot of a pencil point makes on a piece of paper. If you have a sharp pencil and you make a tiny dot on a piece of paper, that is who you are. And the piece of paper is this ocean of consciousness, pure consciousness. And there you are, pure consciousness within pure consciousness as this awareness. This is the grace of human birth. And so, but you don't attach yourself to anything. You simply see it all come and go. Does that get it, Rajiv?
Yes, yes, sir.
I'll say something. Can you hear me?
Please, Tom.
So let's let me switch to gallery view. So, okay, wonders of modern technology. We can all see each other. I can really relate to a lot of what you just said. And I'm just going to pick one thing because it really relates to what I've been experiencing recently. I've talked a good bit about how my mind wanders during meditation, and sometimes I feel frustrated. Like if I would just try harder, it would stop wandering, but that never works. If I try harder, I just get tense and my mind still wanders.
Precisely.
But the thing that I've noticed just recently, there's thoughts that I say you're sitting and I'm sitting and meditating, a thought will come, I'll notice it, I'll let go of it, it just arises and passes away. That's just the process. But there's another kind of thought where I'm sitting and meditating, and then suddenly I realize that for the last several minutes, I've been thinking about redesigning a room in my house. And it's like I've completely forgotten that I'm meditating. Well, I notice before one of those things starts, where I forget that I'm meditating, there's this little thought, when it first starts, there's this little thought that, well, it'll be okay if I just think about this for a little bit,
And of course it is okay. There's perfect.
It is.
You'll be much more efficient at your thoughts of designing that room than you would have otherwise been.
Right. Or all kinds of things, but there's just that little thought. And part of it is that I don't have complete 100% faith that meditation is the best thing for me to be doing. I kind of think it's the best thing for me to be doing. Maybe I have 90% faith, but then there's a 10% that thinks, I need to figure out my income taxes, and the thoughts are coming into my mind while I'm sitting here on the cushion. So I'm kind of looking at my beliefs. What do I really believe about this?
Well, if you read the last couple of chapters of the Vivekachudamani by Adi Shankaracharya, you will see that this, as Sri Ramakrishna said, the most expert singer cannot keep her voice always on the highest note. And so we know the highest note, as you said. You've had these moments of realization where you lose body consciousness. You're simply immersed in that. But not to worry. And if it's only 10% left, you're doing really well. 10% of the time that you're sitting there in those hours that you spend in the chapel, if only just 1 minute out of every 10 is, so to speak, spent in these other pursuits, you're doing well, because otherwise you're climbing that ladder of notes to the highest note, because that's what the process of meditation does. Actually, I say climbing, that's the climbing Jacob's ladder metaphor. The other metaphor is sinking below the effects of those sheaths or koshas that I mentioned before. The food body, the energy body.
First, let me make clear, it's a lot more than 1 minute out of 10 that my mind is wandering. I can't keep track of it. And also I'm trying not to think about it, because then I get into like a competitive thing with myself, or I'll think, I bet his mind doesn't wander as much as mine. Of course, I can't see inside anybody else's mind, and they can't see inside of mine. But the whole like competitive thing, and where am I on this path of development, that's for me is just a disaster.
Yep.
I fall into thinking about that too much.
And it is a disaster that befalls even the Dalai Lama's monks.
Yeah.
They're competitive with one another.
So it's definitely befallen me. The other thing I was thinking about that you just said about how you don't understand it and you don't need to understand it. I think about, say if I want to get physically stronger, and I go to the gym and I lift weights, I don't understand how, a protein is absorbed by the body and converted to a muscle fiber and everything that's going on there. Probably very few people understand that, but I just understand that a lot of people have been doing this for hundreds of years, and that if you exercise, you get stronger.
Exactly.
And, yeah, I don't need to understand all the details.
Bhagirath could explain it to you in great detail, but there's no reason for you to know that.
Yeah.
For you to get stronger.
It's a completely different thing. It's interesting. I'm curious, but I don't have the time to understand everything. And how meditation works, really, I am curious about it, and I've had various theories about it, but I don't really understand. But I know if I meditate every day, I feel happier, and
Yes.
I seem to be a little bit nicer person, and that's about it. So anyway, thanks for listening.
It's been noticeable over the years, Tom. Yes.
Brother, I have like a different perspective on this. Like, let's imagine there's a machine, right? There's a very big machine, and you just have one control, one knob.
Yes. We've lost you, Rajiv.
I can't hear you.
We lost your
It might be
audio.
like, right?
So we heard you up to the point where there's a big machine and one knob. Then you went away.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
So let's say, so now let's say there's a more advanced machine where you have 20 different knobs. So you can very precisely, like, and our mental states are different. Like sometimes I realize that I'm in the left emotion, which is fear. So I have to use a tool which very precisely takes me away from that and puts into some sort of state which is more auspicious. But at other times I realize that I'm in a sort of a very sort of a woozy state where I'm like in like a, thinking about peace and all of that, and like happiness. But people want me to do work, so I don't want to do that work. At that time, there's a different tool that I have to use. So I'm almost thinking that there is this non-dual knowledge, but when it comes to like things like Raj Yoga or Tantra or something like that, even the mantra we use today is basically from Tantra. These sort of Bij mantras and all that we have in our mantras, that is all Tantra, I feel. And I feel that is sort of a knowledge with more knobs, to...
Yes, Rajiv, you have this great facility for reason. Okay, good. You reason very well, and you express yourself very well, and that is your path. This is the path, by the way, of St. Thomas Aquinas. He because of his, we would say, many lifetimes of practicing, he got to where he could write 100 books in 16 years, and every one of them is worth reading. And it is full of exactly the kind of reasoning, from his perspective, of course, the kind of reasoning you were just talking about. But then when he had his, we would call nirvikalpa realization, he was saying mass in the cathedral at Naples, Italy, and something happened. As Patanjali says, that's what happened. Something happened. and he lost outer body consciousness. He fell down. Literally, he fell to the floor. And when he arose, he was a different man. And he said, all that I have done before, all that I have written is as straw, fit to line the stable of the holy expressions. He configured all these things as animals, fit to line the stable floor compared to what I now know. So reasoning is an absolute, his sadhana was reasoning, and he was surpassingly good at it. 16 years, 100 books. Imagine. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, before he became the great bhakta that he became, he was one of the greatest debaters and teachers of logic and debate, that particular darshana of the six darshanas of Sanatana Dharma. So this is a well-known path. Just go for it. Just
And Father, if I may say, I think Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I think he was an atheist
well,
when he started out initially as a
well, all those logicians
yes.
were coming at it from that point of view. I haven't read that he was an atheist, but that may be there. The life that I read of Chaitanya and what Vivekananda said of him doesn't mention that, but you're probably absolutely right.
Even Swami Vivekananda was sort of agnostic about the whole thing before.
Oh my God, yes. He doubted Sri Ramakrishna.
Yes.
He doubted that such a thing was even possible.
Yes.
And that was true even after Sri Ramakrishna had given him everything and Sri Ramakrishna had left the body. If you read at the end of the Gospels, the conversations he had with Mahendranath Gupta, M., the transcriber of the Gospels, Swami Vivekananda was still in this condition of doubt, which is why he had to go on that great wandering that he did, north to south, east to west in India. He said, training his nerves and his muscles to make what Sri Ramakrishna had given him his own. In the gymnasium of this world, he trained his nerves and his muscles to the point where he was perfected, and then there were no longer any doubts. But
So, can I say something, Brother Gaurav here? So
please go.
I think until you start experiencing the divine in some capacity in your life, it's hard to believe or hard to really understand what's going on.
Of course it is.
It's only the experience, I believe, means.
Well, this is exactly what we're told. And Vivekananda says it very clearly. Don't believe it until you experience it. Hold it as a tentative faith. But don't be dogmatic about it. Say it's true when you don't know it's true. And then if you know it's true, you won't even begin to be dogmatic about it, because you know that that is just a way of expressing some tiny fraction of the infinite truth. Thank you, Laura. You're right.
Can I go back to Tom, what Tom was talking about, meditating and finding his mind wandering? And I have to admit, I don't spend a fraction of the time sitting that he does. I used to spend a lot more time, but I do spend time every single day, first thing in the morning, which is what makes a difference for me. But just one thing about the thoughts wandering to needing to do your taxes or whatever. I have long found it interesting what my random thoughts are about. over time, they used to be, in the beginning, like years and years ago, they would be, I'd suddenly find myself thinking about something that was really troubling me, a relationship or a work problem or whatever. But over time, the quality of the interfering random thoughts got higher.
Yes.
And I
exactly.
don't know why, other than just the practice of doing it. But now, because I've been doing it for so long, when I do have interfering thoughts, which I always do if I sit long enough, are like, oh, isn't that bird beautiful at the bird feeder, or something like that. And I don't worry about it because to me it's almost like, okay, now my interfering random thoughts are sattvic. And it's kind of
See,
like I don't stay in them. I don't ruminate over them. They come in and then I'm right back. So I don't know. Just wanted to share that, I guess, because
beautifully said, and very apt. Very
I'd
true.
like to make a comment if all right.
Please, John.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
I guess I'm sitting here just contemplating in the sense that, and I go back to, I guess, what I initially said, being the pure subject. And as being the pure subject, everything else is an object. So if I look around here, I look and I see a computer, I see a can of soda. These are all objects presenting to my eyes that I see. Then I take it a step further and we're talking about thoughts and feelings and so forth. And those are all objects that are presenting in my mind. All right, so when I sit in meditation, all of these things come up, they're presenting, but presenting to what? And what that is the knowing, or is, at least for me, that I've come to understand, is that pure subject. It's never an object. It never arises. It's not anything.
No,
Or
it is that witness awareness.
Exactly.
Or the Atman.
It is the witness. And so everything else is presenting to that.
Precisely, which is exactly what it wants.
Yeah, so
that's what Krishna says in the Gita.
So coming from that perspective, well, that's what I am.
Right. I use the word wants. That's really incorrect. It isn't a question of wants. It's a question of it intends. That's the way Krishna says it in the Gita. And what does Swami Sarvapriyananda mean by that? That he was asked, why does Brahman intend that? And he simply answered, because it can. And there is no answer beyond that. Vivekananda said that too. There's no sense even asking the question, because there's no way that the finite mind within our world of words and concepts is going to understand what the cosmic mind. We can become one with the cosmic mind, and then we understand, but as Sri Ramakrishna and others have pointed out, then you've understood something that cannot be put into words. Try as he might, Sri Ramakrishna could not say what it is that he realized in his highest states of samadhi.
So I think the point that I'm trying to make is that at that, a shift occurs at that point where it's an identity shift of not to a body mind, but to that conscious awareness as being, not a person.
Yep.
So quickly you realize that these thoughts are coming from that juice that makes it all.
Yes. John Gano's days are numbered. the witness awareness, that point of awareness that Nisargadatta Maharaj pointed to, that I, that true I, that Ramana Maharshi encouraged us to find, that neither comes nor goes, never was anything but itself, and will eternally, infinitely, and changelessly be that. But those are just words until we know it.
Well, I'll shut up with the comment of there's such a sense of completion.
Well, there's no need for you to shut up at all, John. That isn't what I was gesturing to in the least. But yes, a sense of completion. And this is exactly what Adi Shankaracharya says in the Vivekachudamani. The student finally comes to this sense of completion and is joyous, ecstatic. And as Patanjali says, that's what happens when the journey is over and we understand that the journey was the goal, and now we're simply watching from this awareness point of view because something has happened to us.
Brother,
Inexpressible.
Brother, there's a quotation from Lord Buddha that I am absolutely fixating on, and I tend to look at it all day, and it helps with my meditation. It says, at the end of the day, I am at peace because my intentions are good and my heart is pure.
Ah, yes, 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 yes.
It just makes my day. Means I look at it all the time, and especially before I meditate, I want to cool down. I want to be calm because I'm surrendering everything. I'm always surrendering everything to the divine, and that faith, it just reinforces my faith.
What to add to that, Gaurav?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Gaurav, could you please repeat that?
Yes. It says Lord Buddha said, at the end of the day, I am at peace because my intentions are good and my heart is pure.
Now, as Gaurav said, this is a great place to start with your meditation so that we understand what the Buddha meant by his intentions, which are exactly the same thing that Krishna is gesturing to when he talks about the intentions of the Atman. My intentions are good, and my heart. Oh, what does he mean by heart? This is the subject for our meditation. What does he mean by heart is pure?
Brother Shankara?
Yes, dear.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
My experience when I do my japa, I've noticed that when my mind is alert, like on those days when I am refreshed and alert, and I sit for my japa, then I can catch the wandering quickly when the mind is going away and bring it back and restart my japa. But when I'm less alert, it's almost like I'm going into a dream state. So that's when even the thoughts are like not anything specific, it just wanders just like in a dream. And then I find it harder to catch, and when I do catch, I'm seeing that I'm either not saying my mantra or saying parts of it, or you know drifting into something else mantra. So it's harder to catch it when I'm not in the most alert state.
Perfectly, perfectly said, Swayam. This is, if we're to believe what Krishna says and what is said elsewhere in the Upanishads and in the other literature, including Patanjali, this is the gunas. When we are alert, the sattva is predominant. Sattva and rajas, but the positive aspects of rajas are predominant. When we're in that state that you characterized as dreamlike and so on, tamas is predominant. Tamas is the concealing power. So of course, it takes us away from the mantra and doesn't let us even be aware that we've gone away from the mantra. And Sri Ramakrishna says, until you are established in samadhi, this will continue. And then even when you're established in samadhi, like the expert singer, you cannot keep your voice always on the highest note. So you will come back down to ordinary awareness. And we see in the life, even of Sri Ramakrishna, the influence of the gunas, because he was a human being as well as the divine person. Very well said, Swayam.
Brother, I often found that like while meditating, focusing on the like breathing deeply outside and releasing everything, uh, that makes me very relaxed and calm and like not very stressed and um, very very sort of silent. And somewhere I also read, I was reading through somewhere, and somebody seemed to say that it's like when you breathe out, it's like breathing out your ego. I don't know if there is something connected.
Ha ha ha. So the truth, breathing in, so breathing out, hum, releasing that I sense, just as you said. It is a practice. It is one of the ways of practicing watching your breath. As you're breathing in, so out, hum, so hum, so hum. Breathing in the auspiciousness of the truth, breathing out the inauspiciousness of the imaginary in the sense of the unreal, the influence of the samskaras. Yes, exactly.
And I often found that in the beginning, like especially if you're in a sort of a sad state of mind or something inauspicious state, uh, in the beginning, just focusing on exclusively breathing out deeply, it's like emptying the bucket of all the sort of muck first, and then try to do the meditation.
Beautifully said, Rajiv. You're very articulate. And this is, as I say, this seems to be very much a part of your sadhana, is this ability to take these thoughts and put them very articulately into words.
The other question I had is that you mentioned like training of nerves. So can you elaborate, like how and maybe you've already talked about this, but how do you like train your nerves?
Okay. Vivekananda said two things about education. Education is the manifestation of the perfection already within, and education is nothing more than the training of the nerves. So the training of the nerves allows this manifestation of the perfection that is already within. Each of the yogas, each one of the yogas is its own way of training the nerves. The one that is most evidently that way is Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga is very specific about we're going to train your nervous system. We're going to train it to be quiet, to stop the vibrations, the vritti, the whirlpools in the ocean of chitta. We're going to stop these waves but we do this by training the nerves. We train them through the restraints. We train them through the observances. We train them through asana. We train them through pranayama. We train them through pratyahara. We train them through dharana. And finally, we reach dhyana, the ability to concentrate, because the nervous system is no longer as interfering as it was when we began. So this is what is meant by training of the nerves. And karma yoga has a different way of doing it. Jnana yoga, as we've said, has a different way of doing it. One of the most important things in Jnana yoga is this simple practice of ignoring what is presented to the awareness, just ignoring it and returning to the thought, Brahman alone is real. Brahman alone is real. This that has presented itself to my awareness is not real. Anything that can present itself and then go away is ipso facto not real. Therefore, and this trains the nerves. Nisargadatta Maharaj explains what happens to him. He doesn't write any books, but people have written books about what he said, particularly the book about him called I Am That. He explains what happens over the 3-year period during which he was intently, earnestly training his nerves to ignore. He was following his guru's instructions. Is what he was finally doing, is getting right down to following his guru's instructions.
Brother Shankara?
Yes, dear.
So I recently listened to again some podcast where a neurologist was explaining the nervous system in a very simple term that is just combination of electricity and chemistry. So our the impulses when they travel in the nerve pathways, it is via sort of electrical impulse, and then when it comes to the synapse to cross from one to the other, then it needs the chemicals. And so I was thinking, I used to get a little confused as to how can spiritual progress or meditation ever lead to a dysfunction in the nervous system. Then I realized that if we do it too fast or wrong, it's like plugging a 220 volt into a 120 socket and we get the shock. And the guru is probably like the adapter that you do not get shocked.
Very, very well said. Well, this is why we're encouraged not to do these practices. So these extreme practices, Kundalini yoga, pranayama, and so on, without the instruction of a fully realized qualified teacher. By that I mean fully realized in this discipline, because otherwise we will damage our nervous system by plugging into not just the 220, but the where all of that 220 is stepped down to, the infinite power. And of course, if our nervous system is not trained to achieve it, it will simply be burnt out. And so we have strokes, or we go insane. All kinds of things happen to us. So, but the wonderful thing about it is, if we do our spiritual practices in whatever form, the nervous system, the mind, the chitta, is extremely plastic. It's called neuroplasticity, and it's adaptable. And there are some wonderful studies about this. I won't go into it now. Any of you want to know about it, please contact me individually. These wonderful studies about how the mind adapts to what is required or asked of it. And this is what Vivekananda was doing in those years that he was wandering in India, asking his nervous system to do certain things that brought it under complete control and within his complete knowledge.
Brother Gaurav here,
Yes,
real quick question. Like if you continue uh, with a lot of good intentions, the spiritual practices, do you start developing some sort of sixth sense about things?
yes, indeed. It's even a little dangerous.
Especially,
Yeah.
yeah,
You can develop psychic powers. This is the sixth sense or supernormal capabilities of the mind, and this is so. What we do is we direct our good intentions away from exploiting those. As
yes,
Swami Prabhupada said, inevitably, those of you who practice with the regularity and determination, you will experience one or more of these psychic powers. And he mentioned specifically, apparently, these are the ones that come most easily to us: clairvoyance, seeing at a distance, and clairaudience, hearing at a distance. He said, if this happens, he said, practice it once, do it so that you know what it is, and then renounce it. Why do it once? He was asked. Well, because otherwise you'll remain eternally curious about what it was. He said, do it so you know what it was. It is knowledge that makes us free. So then because you know what it is, and you know it is not what you're seeking, then you can renounce it.
yeah. Means pretty much. I don't know if you can actually like predict about certain things about your close ones. You see something's gonna happen or something. You tend to feel that very strongly. It starts happening, and
If you
that
want
is
to know,
scary.
if you want to know more about this, Gaurav, read the book Consciousness Beyond Life, Consciousness Beyond Life by a Dutch cardiologist. It is an absolutely incredible book. The
Okay.
title of the book is Consciousness Beyond Life. The
Consciousness
author
beyond
is
life.
Pim, P-I-M, next
Yes.
word Van, V-A-N,
Yes.
last name Lommel, Pim Van Lum, Consciousness
Okay.
Beyond Life. This,
Will do.
and he addresses exactly what you're talking about, where it comes from, and how it happens. He went at this research. He went from being a cardiologist to being a full-out scientist studying consciousness. And his book is absolutely amazing because it is very, very good science according to the definition of science, replicable, uh, fitting the hypotheses, etc. So,
Well, yeah, absolutely, brother. And the thing is, like, if you see somebody who is heading to absolute destruction, should I warn them or just tell them, or it's not my job? It's Ma's watching, so
well,
Divine Mother knows.
I only can tell you what the wisest one I've ever known said about this, Gaurav.
Yes,
He
yes,
said,
brother.
people have a right to their pain and suffering.
Okay,
Do not try to remove it.
okay.
Sustain and comfort. This was Swami Prabhupada.
So
People
be
have
there by the side, and
to,
that's it.
to help them,
Help them.
and they may actually take their own life by intention or by accident. One of our great devotees, a longtime devotees, about 4 months ago now, lost his son to
Yes.
a drug overdose. It was an
Okay.
accidental drug overdose,
Yes.
but
Yes.
this young man seemed bent on self-destruction and had been sober for some time, and then yielded to the temptation, so deceived his father about his need for some money, bought some drugs, and of course, they were stronger than he knew. And so, inadvertently, This seemed to be all the indications by the medical examiner and everything. Inadvertently, he took his own life. So,
Brother, in my family, there's like is a story, not immediate family, but one of our sort of distant aunts, and she had a psychic power where she could heal people. Like so she would sit near you, and whatever issues you like, if let's say if there's a sick person, whatever issues that person has, she would feel all the chakras and nadis, and then she would tell, here is the block. And then it's a mirror. So basically, she would experience what the other person, I mean, obviously the other person is not experiencing, but she has more insight into this. So, and then she would tell the doctor that here is the issue. And then actually in one of the circumstances, it actually proved out to be true. And so she started healing a lot of people. She wasn't particularly spiritual, and I don't think she had any sort of guidance, but she died a very miserable death towards the end of her life. It seems that she had taken all the sort of samskaras or whatever. She got like very fat, and there was pus all over her body, and all sorts of diseases. She went mad, and she died a very miserable death. And like she used to fight with everybody. She created hell for her entire family.
well, Rajiv, this is described very accurately as a danger by Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras. That taking this healing power or any of the other psychic powers are a trap. And it's not surprising what happened to her. Swami Prabhavananda knew someone who pursued these psychic powers, gained the power, for example, to become invisible and so on. He knew him personally. The man went completely mad at the end of his life and died, as you said, a miserable death. So these are not things to be fooled with. And Patanjali says, and all of the great spiritual teachers say, do not seek or use these psychic powers because they will destroy you and they may trap you for many lifetimes. This is what Patanjali warns. It won't be just one lifetime. You may be trapped for many lifetimes.
So when Jesus healed the sick, was he taking on their karmas?
We cannot. Yes, that's the short answer. But we cannot compare other human beings to the avatars. They are a special class of being, and what they can endure and what they do is far beyond and not at all related to what the ordinary human being can do. So yes, they.
Brother, there's also this Reiki and all that stuff, and like there's a lot of like classes go on, and a lot of people tell don't practice it. I mean, if it's like a son or daughter, very near one, and you're really, you're really wanting to sacrifice yourself in order to save the other, that's fine. But should we not, like, obviously I don't practice it, but in general, should one not practice Reiki and stuff like that?
I don't have anything to say about that, Rajiv. We only know what the teachers say. I mean, I can only repeat what I said about what Patanjali said. These powers that you gain, if you learn from a qualified teacher, that's different. But why is it you're doing it? As was quoted by Gaurav, the Buddha, my intentions are good and my heart is pure. So whatever I do is going to turn out perfectly. This is the definition of being what Sri Ramakrishna calls the perfect dancer that cannot put a foot wrong, or the perfect singer that cannot sing a wrong note. The Buddha was that. But whether one should or shouldn't, there's no dogma about these things. There's just suggestions by the saintly ones, by the realized ones. And they say, Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all else shall be added unto you. Seek ye first. This is Christ's instruction. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all else shall be added unto you. All wisdom and all righteousness. You will become pure of intention and a good of intention and pure of heart, and will not be able to put a foot wrong. So this is what Sri Ramakrishna says too. First find God, first know God, then go about your life, however you do it. And of course, Sri Ramakrishna suggests that in this time and in this world that we're living in right now, the most auspicious path is the bhakti path. But that isn't what we've been talking about today. Mostly we've been talking about the jnani's path. Anything else from anyone? Because it's 12:40, believe it or not, 12:41. I mean,
Yes,
this is wonderful. This is what's meant by an open forum. People participating and people being interested. Look how many people have stayed till, it's going on 1 o'clock. And
Shankara, this Amadas here.
Yes, Amadas.
I would like to speak to the question of Reiki, and as I practice it, it's simply a love offering for whoever it is that it's being directed towards, and it's the most natural thing, and it's the most human thing. As a parent, when a child gets a boo-boo, the most natural thing is to pick up the child and hold the child and address the boo-boo.
Well said.
Like that.
As I said, there's no dogma about this. The fact, the way you practice, you're breaking up, Amadas, as it often happens. You're breaking up. We can't hear you at all. Amadas, I have to tell you, we're not hearing you. Okay. But we heard you in the beginning. Then it began to break up.
I'm in with that.
Okay, very good. And we're with you.
Yeah. I'm in with that.
Okay, very good. Anyone else? Anything before we wrap this up?
Brother Gaurav here again.
Yes, Gaurav.
As I said, when I'm doing my meditations and spiritual practices solely based on the fact that I'm seeking eternal truth, eternal peace, and I'm seeking the kingdom of God.
There you are.
That's
the reason to do it. If we're doing
sort
it
of done with, I do not wish to be in the part of this. Through the tumult of Maya, I wish to be just a rock.
Yes. And if we're doing our spiritual practices for any sense of personal gain in terms of our food body, our energy body, and our mind body, if we're doing it for any sense of personal gain for that, then as Swami Chaitananda would say, raising his hands this way, he would say hopeless condition. So we must practice love for love itself, as Amadas was saying. The Beatles put it so beautifully in this little couplet. The love you take is equal to the love you make. And if we're making love, if we're generating, if we're being that service to the world that Ramana Maharshi pointed out, then there's nothing whatsoever to worry about. And we will succeed. This is what we're told by all the teachers. You will succeed. And there's no reason why it needs to be in another lifetime. Anything else from anyone? All right, dears. May there be peace. Let there be peace in outer space. Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters. Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees. May the gods be peaceful. May the whole universe be pervaded by peace. Let that infinite universal peace prevail throughout my being. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shantihi. Peace, peace, peace and beneficence be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. May we be always in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. So until the next time we meet, this has been such a joy. Look how an open forum works. All of you are participating, whether you said a word or not. Those of you who stayed, you clearly you're right with us. Jai, 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 Jai. How joyous is this?
Yes.
Until next time, dears.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shankara.
Thank you, dear. May you be well and in bright spirits.
Thank you. And you as well.
Thank you, dear. Jai, Jai, Jai.